like winning championship, when you start the season, that's the mountain, right? Now that mountain is made up of a million little steps, right, and little goals along the way. But yeah, I certainly do that. You establish your mountain, and then after that, you don't look to the summit. Forget about it. You can't even see it. You just focus on the next step in front of you, right? You put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and you just keep your head down. You keep working, you keep working, you keep working. The next thing you know, you find yourself at the top of the mountain. It's hard to find that thing that you love that much, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of the key to this whole deal. Mm-hmm. Right? And for those of us that are really lucky, you can find what that thing is at a very early age. Other times it requires a lot more work. It requires a lot of trying and experimenting. Right. But when you find that thing, it's like, right? You don't have to wake up in the morning and psych yourself up like, oh man, I gotta do this today. All right, I gotta get jazzed up. Like every morning you wake up and you're like, I can't wait. And that's like, that's more than 80% of the battle, I think. Don't run from those moments.
Yeah, right.
You don't run from them. You embrace them. Right, you got to embrace the storms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fears that we have, those moments of suffering, they're all part of the process. They're all part of growth. It's nature, right? You got to be able to handle those things, man. Well, I learned at an early age from something actually has nothing to do with basketball, but everything to do with it. I was in a karate class, and I was just starting out. I was a white belt. And for some reason, like we have these days during the week where everybody kind of sits in a circle and you duke it out with another belt. You work on all the things that you were just working on. And so I was fairly talented, right? So the guy goes, okay, sensei, all right, you're going to go up against this guy. And this guy's a brown belt and he's like 2 years older. And I'm like, what the? I'm not going to fight this dude, man. You crazy? Like, no, I'm not, and now you have the headgear on, you got all this stuff on, right? You got foot gloves on, the whole thing, right? And I was freaking out, completely freaking out. And he told me at the beginning of class, so the whole class I'm freaking out. And so I wound up fighting this guy and I get my butt kicked, right? But I remember, I was about 8 years old. In the car on the way home, I remember thinking that my imagination made it worse. In my own head, it was going to be the worst thing ever. Then I actually fought him and it wasn't. It's like, it was okay. I did okay, right? But that taught me a very early lesson, is that we can get in our own heads so much. We can psych ourselves out so much. We can almost talk ourselves into a fearful situation, as opposed to just being. And I've never forgotten that lesson. I mean, I remember having a teammate who could work on his shot all day long. As soon as the game starts, couldn't do it. Or I had a teammate that, practice starts at 10:30, they show up at 10:30. Right, practice ends at 1, they leave at 1. Right, conventional wisdom would say, okay, call him a lazy bum and get him out of here. You know what I mean? Right. But what you come to find out is that there are actually other things that are truly the reason why he doesn't want to apply himself and do extra work, because he's more so afraid of the failure. Like, if I really put myself into this thing 110%, and it's still not good enough, then how do I feel about myself? Because as young men, we are taught at a very early age that any sign of vulnerability is a sign of weakness. Right? Crying, that's weak. Don't do that.
Right.
And so I think it's very important for these young men to go through this journey of self-acceptance first and foremost. Right? Because there are a lot of things that are personally holding them back, that they've buried, either consciously or subconsciously, that's holding them back from reaching their full potential as young men and as athletes. And until you square with those, you'll never hit that full stride. So the first one is a really big, important story about self-acceptance. And then from that self-acceptance, it teaches you empathy and compassion. Because even though I can't see what magical journey you just went on, I know that you've gone through one, because I have as well. Yeah, I watched a lot and I studied a lot. At the time I didn't think it was studying. It was just like, I'd rather be doing nothing else. I wanted to watch Bird, I wanted to watch Magic, Olajuwon, Barkley, Robinson, Baylor, on and on and on and on. And I try to imitate those moves.
Right.
And my left hand was weak. I had to work on my left hand. That's what I did. And it was just fun. I'd just rather be doing nothing else.
In Muse, you touch on having to travel so much as a kid and really finding solace in basketball. Do you feel like your imagination was also playing a big part in your development in those days?
Oh my God, yes, because it involves playing a lot by yourself.
Right.
You know, in Italy at the time, soccer was, and still is, I mean, it's the best thing since sliced bread,
Yeah.
right? And so you go to the park, there's not a lot of kids back then that wanted to play basketball, right? So I had a lot of room for imagination. And so when I'm out there shooting, I'm imagining at the time being in the Forum, playing at the Boston Garden, you know, hearing the crowd, you know, acting as if I was the play-by-play announcer. And so there certainly was a lot of imagination there. And so the Black Mamba stuff all comes from that sort of imaginary world of creating something else, right? But I also learned from that even through imagination, things must come from truth, right? Who am I on a basketball court? I'm this thing, right? So it has to be anchored in a form of truth.
How do you assemble that inner circle of people that you trust, whether it's a project like this book or in other areas of life?
Yeah, you know, people, you know, you can feel it. Certain people have a certain energy about them. When there are people in the world that are focused and like I wake up in the morning with a purpose. This is what I'm doing. You can feel that energy, or you can feel it because it's a kindred spirit. So those are the people that I tend to work with a lot. And if you don't have that, I can sense it. Right. But we're also very disciplined. If you're a person that's very distracted, hanging around the wrong crowd, not having that sense of purpose, we don't want to be around it. We don't want to be around it, you know, because that stuff will bring you down, man. Stuff will bring you down.
In that, you know, hard work gets us there part of the way. But to achieve greatness, especially now, we look everywhere, hustle this, hustle that, work hard. What else is it that goes beyond just the hard work, the effort?
Well, it's trying to balance and win all facets of life. It's really hard to do, right? Like, how do you succeed at your craft? But how do you also have a stable family?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's the gazillion-dollar question. How do you balance those two things, man? And I think that's the part that gets missed a lot. I mean, we all talk about the hard work. We all talk about, okay, be this, be that, be this, be that. But what I figured out as I got older is it's not about working hard in terms of putting in long hours, but it's about working smart. It's about working smart. When you work smart, it gives you more time to be able to spend with your family, right? And have that consistency, because it's important to win all facets, man.